Shabbat shalom, man. How my people doing this morning? Y'all know who I be, man. This be y'all brother, man, the elder Radazan. Of course, we know Zaquan means elder. So this be y'all boy, Zaquan, man. Say, man, there's something been on my mind, man. Really, like the last week or so, you know, all these unalivings of our youth, man, as y'all will see the title of this thing, could this be ushering in Matthew 24 and 7. Yeshua is talking about how, nation will rise against nation. And a lot of people will say, well, it's talking about the government's going to war, you know. But, that's not the case because in this same verse, it's saying, and kingdom. And means to add, right? And kingdom against kingdom. So the kingdom is the government or the nation's government, that particular nation's government, or should I say political infrastructure, however. So it's two different things being talked about in this verse, right? And that's, race wars, bad as we hate to hear that. And of course, these wars of the nations, which is taking place now. However, we got to be diligent, man, and not only that, vigilant as well in protecting our youth, man. And the most high say, we should never trust our enemies, and you know, when we were, when the curses were being listed out, in other words, when Moses was telling us what was going to happen to us when we were in the wilderness, if we disobeyed the commands of the Father, that we would go into Egypt again on ships. And in Deuteronomy 28:68, the Most High let us know that we will be sold to our enemies. And we look in the annals of history or just look at the transatlantic slave trade, who were we sold to, right? But even more so, the Most High even goes far as to list the enemies of himself as well as his people. And we're gonna go check that out. Let's go to the Bible for a second. All right. First, we're gonna be going to Psalms 83, man. Old classic, but it never ceased to fail until it never fails to bring it home, man. You know. And here it is. It's Psalms 93. Salakia 83. I'm tripping. Man, I'm waking up on the wrong side this morning. Psalm 83. 83. Here we go. All right. And here, it's the enemies of the Most High, Yahuwah, and his people is listed right here, right? Of course, they're biblical names, but these people still exist today, right? Say, for instance, let's read this here. It said, keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies. He say, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance, right? And say, for they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. And here's the list right here. The tabernacles of Edom, which we believe that Edom is the so-called white man. When you take the characteristics of Edom and Esau, Edom, and the prophecies and stuff like that, it matches the white man straight up. The Ishmaelites, of course, we know these are the Arabs, right? Ishmael is the father of the Arabs, and of Moab, which we believe is Chinese, and the Hagarenes, right? And this is a sect of, believe it or not, of Hamites, because these people comes from Hagar. If y'all familiar with who Hagar is. All right, Jabal and Ammon. This is the Japanese. Amalek. Amalek was the son of Esau. So these would be really some more Edomites, right? The Philistines, okay, we know these people are Hamitic. These are Hamites. These are African people with the inhabitants of Tyre. Of course, some more African people. Assur, which would be Assyria, also is joined with them. They have hope in the children of Lot, Salah. So as we can see, that you know, the Most High has enemies. Yeshua has enemies. The Israelites has enemies, right? And it's very clear in this book who our enemies are, right? So we got to keep that in mind when we allow our youth, to really mingle with these enemies, these people, because I'm gonna show you something. Really, we're not supposed to do it no way. We're set apart people, like the scriptures say. you know, what fellowship does righteousness have with unrighteousness, and light with darkness, and so on and so forth? And basically, what that scripture is saying is that, what fellowship do I have with a gangbanger if I ain't trying to reach him and bring him into this truth? I shouldn't be doing what he's doing. I shouldn't be, you know, or living the lifestyle that he's doing. If I'm up around him, I should be trying to show him what the Lord say, who he is as being, Israelite, Israel, et cetera, et cetera. You know, before it's just fellowship with darkness. We're not supposed to do that. So we shouldn't even allow our youth, to especially go places with these people, right? So let's keep that in mind. See, when we apply scripture to our life, then we won't fall into these traps. We won't become victimized, by the wicked, you know, and his little old shenanigans and stuff like that, right? So, I truly believe that, this ain't gonna be long, y'all. I truly believe that, this is ushering in, what Matthew 24 and 7 has to say. Matter of fact, let's go read that. Let me go pull that up real quick. And of course, I think it's one in Zechariah, prophetic scripture. Here we go. Let me add this to the stage. All right. Here we go. So we in Matthew 24 and 7, which it reads, "For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom." Okay, if this is not talking about two different, I'm just going to use the word entity for lack of a better term. If this is not talking about two different entities, of people, then I don't know what to say for you in your understanding, right? But nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrow. So as we can see, this is a prophetic scripture. This is Yeshua, giving a prophetic message as to what to expect, and so on and so forth. Because if we read up, matter of fact, let's start this from the beginning, and we're gonna see what he was asked the question. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple. They was boasting about the temple, and how grand it was, right? And Yeshua said unto them, "See ye not all these things?" He talking about the temple and everything, right? He say, "Verily, I say unto you, there shall not be one left here, Salaki, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be overthrown." Okay. Say, and as he sat upon the mount of olives, say, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, "Tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" Check it out. This what Yeshua said. And Yeshua answered and said unto them, "Take heed that no man deceive you." That's the first thing, right? Everybody I talk to, man, I tell them, man, don't take what I'm saying, man. Go research for yourself, because a lot of time we can disseminate wrong information, and stuff like that, man, and mislead someone, that's gonna be on us, So this is why the Bible says we got to study to show ourselves approved, right? It goes on and say, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. No, don't be afraid. Don't be scared, right? For all these things must come to pass. He used mandatory language right here. He used the term must. In other words, it gotta happen. Ain't nothing gonna stop it, right? And he say, but the end is not yet. In other words, these things here is just the beginning of, like you say, the beginning of the sorrows, right? And in the very next verse, he say, for a nation, you know what? We're gonna look this word. We're gonna go into the Greek on this word nation. Let me see here. Look up. All right. It says in the Bible, nation primarily refers to an ethnic group, lineage, or people sharing a common ancestry and culture, rather than a modern Salakia political state. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew word God, often translated as nations or Gentiles, generally means a collective body of people. In the New Testament, the Greek word ethne, the root of ethnic, is used, which refers to distinct people groups or tribes. Throughout the text, the concept of nation evolves, right? So as we can see, people, this word here, nation, is talking about people, an ethnic group of people, right? And it say, for a nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So we can stop sharing for right now. Move this here from the stiz out his age, people. Yeah, like I said, this won't be long, man. It was just really to put something on your mind, man. And to, really warn everybody and, advise everybody, man. Man, it's so, I ain't gonna lie, it's so terrifying, when you're a father and you got a son that you love dearly, you know what I'm saying? And in a lot of cases, you're overprotective of him, kind of like how I am with mine. I ain't gonna even lie, man. Oh my God. So this why, we went out yesterday. I said, man, gonna go get this boy a phone if he gonna, be outside, and stuff like that. So, that way you can speed dial daddy. And here I come running with that thing and the most high. But anyway, we got to be diligent, man, and vigilant and protecting our youth, man, and these so-called friends say, man, we got to screen them to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? The child gonna get mad and daddy, mama, why you? Don't worry about that. It's for his best interest, his safety, and your peace of mind, right? So with that, man, I hope y'all, just give it some thought, man. Just think about it. Go over these couple of those. Matter of fact, it's a couple more I'm gonna give y'all. I'm gonna give y'all some more scripture. Hold on. Let me add this thing, right? It's something come out of this scripture here that I want to share with you. Zechariah 14 and 13. These other ones, other cross references here, right? In Zechariah 14 and 13, it reads, and it shall come to pass in that day, talking about the last days, right? The end of the world, and like how they was acting Christ, right? Say that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his brother, of his neighbor, Salakia. So, throughout the text, throughout the book, especially when it's dealing with end time prophecies, prophecies of the end, stuff that's going to take place in the latter days, and speaking about these race wars, this has to happen. This have to happen, and ain't nothing we can do about it. The most thing we can do is be diligent and vigilant in making sure that our youth are protected, as well as ourselves, the whole entire family, and really each other, man. We gotta protect each other, man, because we really one people. We the Israelites, we God's chosen, and just ain't nowhere around that. Too much evidence out there, So us as being chosen by the Most High Creator of heaven and earth, the God of Israel, then we are commanded to act and carry ourselves a certain way, and that way is within the laws, commandments, and statutes of our Father. So people, like I said, I hope this will provoke some thought. Make the light come on in your head to be a little bit more vigilant and diligent in protecting your household, man. Because we're at that time now, man, where it ain't no rules, man. Just like we used to say back in the day, man. The game with no rules, nothing is certain, anything possible. So with that, I'm gonna say Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Stay tuned. I got a more extensive lesson coming between 9 and tomorrow. Matter of fact, dealing with this devil and his shenanigans, man. So with that, Shalom, people, and be safe out there.